True Believers, Englentine here, and this is part 2 of our look into why are Marvel Comics failing, which is really sad. I've got Breen with me here, and that's a happy thing. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
And you're wearing your Marvel shirt, the whole 9 yards. I'm sporting Disney, so at least it's somewhat. I've got the new owners. In all honesty, that may actually be the reason why we're going to be talking about what we're going to be talking about. And today it's continuity. So make sure if you want to check out chapter 1, links in the description below. It's where I talk about how a lot of modern day Marvel writers and artists think of them as just fictional characters. Yes, of course they are. But to someone like Breen, someone like to myself, who we've been with these characters for 40 years, we love the breathing world that has been created around them, and it's horrible to watch that world crumble. But that's just me. And I think you, right, Breen?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's something else that makes these worlds crumble is the lack of continuity in Marvel Comics. Definitely. I mean, it's in both of them a little bit, but definitely in Marvel Comics. It seems like over the last 10 years, definitely, and maybe even more so, I stopped around, I stopped Marvel Comics around, I would have to say 2009. When Captain America took a bullet to the head, I was like, all right, I'm done. So.
Yeah, bullet to the head was, that's what got my friend out of comics and altogether. Only in his case, it was Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle. Oh yeah, that actually ticked off a lot of people as well. But after that, I gotta say, and we've mentioned this, and this goes to, of course, the what we were talking about last time with the fictional characters. We haven't seen Captain America since that bullet hit him in the head.
Well, when he first came back, I'm a little different on the when Marvel lost its way.
Mm-hmm.
In the second half of the first decade of the 2000s, when they did House of M, Civil War, Secret Invasion, Dark Reign, and then into Siege, they brought Captain America back. He kind of inspired everybody to get back together, and that's when they put the big three back together because Thor had been dead and came back
Mm-hmm.
with a bit of a attitude problem towards Tony Stark, and justifiably so. And then they went on kind of like a hero's journey together in a series called Prime, and then that led into the heroic age. So for a while you had the real Captain America back, and then I would say after Fear Itself, when Quesada got kicked upstairs and Axel Alonso took over, that's when it all fell apart. And we haven't seen Cap since.
And it seems like more and more what we're hearing is, and what I'm seeing is, it does not matter. What happens in one book can be rewritten or redone or just refigured. I mean, let's point out to their main character of the Marvel universe, Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that's. And we've talked about that a bunch of times. That was a character that we all liked. Everybody liked Carol Danvers when she was Ms. Marvel because she had, the classic hero's journey. She went through. She had hardships. I mean, she had a drinking problem. She had her life literally stolen from her by Rogue, who even after they turned Rogue into an X-Men and a hero in her own right, the two women had major problems with each other for decades after that. And it was, and at best, a tenuous relationship. Now, Captain Marvel is someone that all the characters, revere, and that's even the ones that she's killed.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're told we should love her, but they never give us any kind of reason. They never give us any kind of I don't know. We need that Captain Marvel story, but it's amazing to me that they haven't even figured out who she is yet, and that's part of what I wanted to talk about with continuity. they are changing the character so much. They do this a bit in DC as well, and we've seen it. You and I are a big fan of Crisis on up to Flashpoint. You know, that's, in my opinion, the greatest era of any company, and that's DC Comics. But and we see it fall, but it seems like there is nothing to really grab onto when you are, and part of it is, of course, they're rebooting every month. DC's doing this as well. Once we reach a certain number, let's go back. And so what volume is what leading into this? What's going on with that? Does volume 2 of Justice League really matter of volume 3 of Justice League? It just seems like when you did have that long run, not just in DC Comics, but in Marvel Comics, what happened in issue number 100 may show up in what happened in issue number 200. And I get it. You can't keep it all up in the head. You can't keep track of it all. And that never really happened. But they did cherry pick at times where they said, oh, remember? Yes, at one point, Spider-Man did drive a doom buggy. And, you know, all that kind of stuff is out the window. And it seems like it's not that they're cherry picking anymore. It's just that whenever they need something, they completely destroy it, or they go, hey, what? And my most hated phrase in any comic book ever is, what you thought you knew is wrong.
Well, a great example of that right now is the Amazing Spider-Man. You know, when Nick Spencer took over, they gave him, they gave Peter Parker 2 roommates, Randy Robertson, and I'm pretty sure they just, glossed over his entire past. Mm-hmm. And whatever the guy's name is, who was Boomerang. Well, Boomerang had accepted more than one contract to kill Spider-Man over the years from the Kingpin. And now we're supposed to believe that they can just take their masks off and be best friendsies. And to my knowledge, they still haven't addressed the fact that his roommate has tried to kill him, because I think Peter knows who he is.
Yeah.
One story where Peter confronts him.
Yeah. And not only like, hey, wait a second, you took a contract out to kill me or to kill Spider-Man, or I know you're a contract killer. He could have come, but then as Spider-Man, this guy's got information on Kingpin. Yeah. Just the fact that he knows that Kingpin hired him to kill Spider-Man, that's conspiracy.
But I get the feeling that none of that happened in this version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because, I said it seems like, what happened last month no longer matters this month. Yeah. And that gets to the crux of what we're talking about. Like when you and I started collecting, back in the 70s and reading, I think one of the things that drew me to Marvel first was, I was reading a continuing story in Fantastic Four. It was right when, the Thing had become Ben Grimm again and Luke Cage joined the team. And what happened one month continued into the next and into the next. And then once that story was over, what had happened in those stories still mattered, because when they started the next storyline, the Thing was still Ben Grimm wearing an exoskeleton, and I realized, hey, the stuff that happened 100 issues ago, that still counts. Yep. This is kind of neat stuff. Whereas over at DC, it was like each issue was a reset, and then they started dabbling in continuity a little bit, but where they would have it in Detective Comics, it had nothing to do with what was happening in Batman. It was like there were two different Batmans. But at Marvel, everything that had happened up to that point mattered and, counted, so to speak. And it was like that seemingly for decades. I would say until, for all of its faults, even through the 90s, it was when, Bill Jamas took over in, the early 2000s when he came out and said, basically, continuity's for losers, and we don't care about it.
Yeah, and that's done right there. I'm sorry, but it isn't, because what it does is it creates freaking collectors. You don't just want readers. You want collectors. You want somebody like our friend Frugal, Captain Frugal, by the way, check out his YouTube channel. He's awesome. but he's put together an entire Avengers run. Why? Because he loves the Avengers. He wants to collect everything Avengers. He's a collector. So if he reads issues 2000 to 2020, and yes, I know I'm making those numbers up, he's going to want to go back and he's going to want to pick up issue number 1 because it might actually have something to do with it. It has a history. And within that team, they talk about that history until, of course, Bendis picks it up and calls it New Avengers. But I'm the only person who sees that for the crap it was.
No, actually, you don't. But I see it as something at the time was almost necessary because, you know, for good or ill, the Avengers name, and it's hard to believe in the era of the MCU. The reason why the Ultimates, the Avengers were called the Ultimates, was because the name Avengers didn't sell.
Yeah, it was a tainted brand at that point.
And I will give Quesada credit for the team of writers and artists he assembled to do those events. You know, for those 5 or 6 years, I think that was as creative a period as anyone in comics has ever had. You know, warts and all, you know, characters, people being written out of character notwithstanding, the stories themselves were grand in scope and they pulled it off. And then, unfortunately, the unintended consequences was if one event is good, then
many
6
events
is better, and that doesn't work.
Yeah, isn't it a little bit funny though that Marvel, when they came out, DC was the established. DC was dad bod. DC was the grandparents of comics. Marvel comes out in 1963. It's new, it's hip, it's young. People are all over it. And then somewhere in the 80s, it seemed to flip, where it just seemed like Marvel was the most corporate. And I'm willing to say that, and I'm willing to charge them that way. Even when DC was going, oh, wait, so we kill Superman, that means we can break Batman's back. We could cause Green Lantern to go crazy and get somebody else in the Wonder Woman outfit. And, you know, it was just one right after the other doing basically the same thing with different characters. But even with that, I'll say that Marvel managed to just tank themselves. And so, I mean, you're bringing this, you're bringing up the 2000s. You know, in my opinion, it all kind of, my first thoughts anyway, it all started with the later 2000s or mid when Captain America was shot in the head. But in all honesty, you're pushing and you're looking at it as this has been going on for damn near 20, 25 years.
Well, more so than not, but I do say that there was that 5 or 6 years, and I'm saying this when One More Day happened during those years. I look at, you know, One More Day as like the pimple on prom night of Marvel. Because other than just a terrible mistreatment of Spider-Man, there was a lot of excitement going on at Marvel, and a lot of people that have gone on to Ed Brubaker was writing for him in those days. And that was, I think, Bendis's best work of his career. Okay. You know, and again, because I said, you know, they basically had 6 years of build up to what, you know, culminated with Siege. And you know, you can, you know, nitpick. I said, I never liked the fact that they brought the Sentry in and retconned him that he'd been there all along. It's just that they'd forgotten. You kind of have to, you know, being a comics fan is you have to be willing to accept, you know, major amounts of suspension of disbelief. And if you can get past some of the things like that and just enjoy them for what they are, there was some incredible storytelling in those years. But, you know, name an event that's happened at Marvel in the last 8 or 9 years that anybody refers to, because hell, Marvel can't even finish one before they're, you know, promoting the next one.
That's true. Yeah, it's not just that you can't eat more than, you know, just one. It's just they're going to keep providing you with more and more. The only one that I ever hear anybody reference to with any kind of reverence is the Secret Wars. The one with Mr. Fantastic, not the one in the 80s, but this new one that I never read. And as a matter of fact, I count myself lucky that I never read one more day. I was out of comics during that period. It seems like I dodged a particular bullet. It's ridiculous. Now I'm not going to let DC off on this one. I know it's titled why Marvel is why Marvel Comics is dying, but in all honesty, with the invention of the New 52, they wiped out the continuity you and I loved, but they didn't stick to their guns. You know, say what you will about Crisis on Infinite Earth, and the only thing I think you should be saying is how awesome it is. At least when they rebooted, You know, Superman's not pushing planets anymore. You know, Batman isn't going along in his freaking zebra gum striped outfit. You actually, they rebooted. You know, some characters more than once. Hawkman, of course, didn't get a really, as far as, you know, look, we've both said Hawkman's never been in a bad run, but they never really figured out who Hawkman was, it seems, until Venditti grabbed a hold of him now. But at least they stuck to their guns. They said, we're going to start all over. And this was something Marvel did with the Ultimates, at least. But when New 52 hit and DC had the option, and or they actually said, this is what we're going to do, it seemed like they cowarded it out and said, well, this is still here. And this is still here. Okay, this is, but not that. And I don't know. It just didn't gel to me as much.
Well, they did that with Crisis also. They did allow some things that had, you know, like the Teen Titans still had some of their past. Mm-hmm. Batman still had some of his, but Superman did not, and Wonder Woman did not. And I think it was kind of like a nod and a wink that you know, we're just going to say some of this stuff happened, some of it didn't. And you just don't think too hard about how that all fits, or you'll give yourself migraines. But those first 5 years post-Crisis, I mean, find me a bad book. I mean, everything, the Superman books were fantastic. The Batman books, Grell's Green Arrow. They waited a few years and brought back Green Lantern.
Hawkworld.
But then they look at the sales charts, and Marvel's still grinding them into paste. And I think that's why
I never understood it.
I didn't either. And it got even worse when Image launched, and all the Image titles, and I mean all of them, were outselling everything other than Batman. I mean, our go-to guy we like to make fun of, Bad Rock, was outselling Superman.
That's ridiculous, because Superman in the 90s is some of the best comics you're going to be reading.
And I think that's why you got the death of Superman, Batman getting his back broken, Artemis becoming Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, going crazy and becoming Parallax. I mean, there was some moves born out of desperation, but if you go back and read the stories, they all kind of worked because they cared, and that's.
But even still, even though they took Hal Jordan, let's say, through the ringer, that happened. They never said that didn't happen. Even and I'm on Batman's side when he was brought back. Wait, are we going to ignore the mass murder? Is that where we're going here? I was actually on Batman's side. Guys, he killed everybody. Yeah. I mean, it's just, how are you not seeing it? But he saved the universe. Yes, but he killed everybody. And Batman's the only one that brought it up. But even through all of that, even with that bad decision right there, by the way, and there's no way Green Lantern is punching Batman without the help of the ring. Even with all of that, at least they kept the continuity going, and they don't just reboot. Look, I understand that the JLA, they were really the first ones that wrote for the trade. But I understand that this is the curse that they have given us, that Marvel, DC, everybody is writing, 6-story arcs now. And we have to have these padded out stories with big pages, panels this big with the word, "Hi there, how are you doing?" That being a story nowadays. But at least back then, they made sure that what happened in issue number 50 of Green Lantern got brought up in Green Lantern Rebirth. You know, it just it did matter. It and stuff like that matters. And granted, you get your cherry picking, but it really just, I'm not feeling it as much these days. I don't know. Maybe it is just me. Maybe this entire video is just me nitpicking, but it just does not feel like it's there anymore. I miss the editor's note. I got to tell you, I miss the editor's note.
You and me both. That's you know, who was it? I think it might have been Jerry Conway did a tweet thread yesterday lamenting the lack of the thought balloon. And I think he mentioned the footnotes as well, that it's, you know, that it's just not the same. Yeah. So like I said, the thought balloon has been replaced by, you know, the exposition box where they're doing it under like the first person narrative. He goes, well, the problem with that is that tells you from panel one that everything's going to be okay because they're narrating it.
That's true. That is true. But this is speaking of the curse that was brought up upon us, that's a Frank Miller thing. Frank Miller, way back in the 80s, actually did that with, I believe it was Born Again. It might be before that, but I believe it was Born Again where he would have blah, 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 blah. And then definitely he really hit that mark with Sin City, where instead of putting the thought balloon in it, it would be the little narration boxes and such. So,
yeah, I miss, like I said, the thought balloons. That was one of the things that made comics fun in our day. And like I said, you know, they've changed so much through the years. And you know, we were talking before about, you know, how, you know, certain things in continuity, you know, like, you know, shifting gears a little bit, like at Marvel right now, you know, everything in every book is a mega event. But at least, you know, once upon a time, if Thor was on the other side of the galaxy fighting, oh, I don't know, somebody like someone powerful enough to have Galactus for a herald, but
that's,
you know,
ridiculous.
he would not be in the Avengers because they would say, you know, and that would be why. You know, yeah, sometimes you would have Thor off in adventures in his own book and be in the Avengers, but they would at least try to say this takes place before, or this takes, and sometimes they would have things that would take place literally between pages of another book, and they would show you how it fit. Now they just don't care. And I noticed that 10, 11 years ago when you could, at any given time, you could have Hulk smash, you know, Bruce Banner Hulk, you know, like 3 different versions of the Hulk running around at the same time, depending on who was writing the character.
Exactly. That's and once again, the editor's note. Bring back not only the thought balloon, but the editor's note, which would tell you, oh, and this happened in this issue, so collectors are born.
Well, the main explanation for why we don't get that anymore is once upon a time, you know, I say Marvel in the 70s, Len Wein might be writing the Hulk, but he was editing Fantastic Four. Whoever was writing Fantastic Four might have been editing the Spider-Man line. Now you see what, you know, passes for editors in Marvel. They don't write, they don't read. So they're, you know, they're there.
And they're all just fictional characters, Breen. They're all, yeah, we know. But you know what? If you read as many comics as we did, you just want their world back.
Okay, well, here's my answer to that. For anybody that wants to trot that out there, then don't care about anything, you know, that's not real. I said, you don't talk to me about how much you like that movie. It's just fictional character. Don't tell me how much you like the Hunger Games. It's just fiction. I said, if you don't care, then there's no reason to do it. And that's why this hobby thrived for so long. And I would say you know, new comics might be in their death throes, but, you know, if and when we ever get to have conventions again, you know, and you'll go to them and I'll go to them, just just look around and see what collectors are buying. And you'll notice they're all the stuff from when the runs were uninterrupted.
Yeah. Can we stopping books at issue 25, 30? Or how about this one? admit that the book sucked and you canceled it, and don't tell us it's a limited series.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. No, it's a limited series. No.
So it's always meant to go 9.5 issues.
Right.
What are you talking about?
All righty. Well, you brought up a couple of things that we definitely need to talk about. I think we need to delve into the lack of supporting characters just a little bit more. You brought up a couple of other things as well that we're going to be talking about on not just, I mean, and I know I've titled these Why Marvel Comics is Dying, but it's pretty much all over the place that this is happening in some way, shape, or form. Even DC occasionally takes their dip into the social justice realm, and there's no need for it. Don't go broke by going woke. There's other ways to go broke.
Well,
do more Fool Killer. That'll make you go broke.
At least DC tends to, keep their SJW proclivities separate from the main universe. That was something that Marvel stopped doing 7 or 8 years ago. How long that lasts, I truly have no idea. I'm not real confident given some of the things that I see coming out of DC. But, we'll see.
Yep, we'll see. All right, gang, that's our opinion. What is yours? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell if you haven't done it already, making sure that the notifications are on, and pick out a video that's probably here somewhere. All right. Also, if you don't mind helping out the channel, going over to PayPal or to Ko-Fi, drop $1 in the till, helps keep the lights on, helps keep making videos for you. Thank everybody who's already done that. To everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching. Have a good day.